Oh, hey, thanks for clicking on this video. Appreciate it. I'm Ethan Van Sciver. This is Comic Artist Pro Secrets. Maybe you remember me. Maybe you recall Bounding into Comics. Maybe you recall the Pencil of Scorn. Bounding into Comics, not Garbage Tier, not Inverse, not Screen Rant, not Movie Web. Bounding into Comics, of course, paragons of rectitude, righteousness, probity. They have integrity, unlike all of those other websites. And that is why we happily refer to them when we're trying to get real facts about how Steve Ditko and his estate are filing a lawsuit to terminate Marvel copyrights over Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. That's unusual because Steve Ditko had plenty of an opportunity to do this and to fight for Spider-Man, but he really didn't want to. He kind of wanted to stay in hiding as a hermit reading Ayn Rand novels. But sometimes he complained. Sometimes he went ahead and he complained. Here is Steve Ditko complaining, for example, saying, oh, yeah, look, this is Simon and Kirby's Captain America. All right, so that's what they designed. They did a good job on Captain America. How similar when Stan Lee came up with the idea for Spider-Man, and the idea for Spider-Man, as you'll see later, is just, here is a name that I thought of, Spider-Man, true believer. Could you please come up with everything else? Here's what Jack Kirby came up with. That would have been Spider-Man if it weren't for the fact that Steve Ditko came in and said, you know what, let me take a swing at it. And he came up with this design, which of course is infinitely better than this design in every single way. But not to complain, look at Steve Ditko, not to brag, but every now and then maybe we'll bitch. Maybe we'll bitch and complain in 1999. Tisk, he says, whatever happened to common sense? Common sense not so common anymore. On what factual grounds do some people talk, write, and claim that Spider-Man is a one-man creation? Who are these people, Mr. Ditko? Bring them to me that I might execute them for their incredible audacity. For example, and here's the case that Steve Ditko is going to make about how he did create Spider-Man, and Stan Lee, the writer, of course, taking the bulk of credit for the creation of Spider-Man and also Doctor Strange. But who really cares about Doctor Strange? Spider-Man's the big fish here. Stan Lee's Spider-Man, quote-unquote, creation. The quote-unquote creation. In other words, he's saying, you barely did shit. Spider-Man. He came up with the name. And then, look, a 1 or 2 page synopsis for the artist, who must draw 21 to 24 pages of story art panels. Okay, so this is called, dialogue must then be added working from the artist's rough panel script. Now, we remember this. This is the Marvel method. Disney Plus recently made a documentary humiliating writer Dan Slott for his inability, his laziness, his slothfulness in utilizing the Marvel method, which normally is used to make writing a lot of scripts easier for a single writer. He can just write a quick outline, let the artist do most of the storytelling, and then just add the dialogue. That's what it is, and that's what Stan Lee did. Of course, Dan Slott famously utilized it just to write one book, and he couldn't even do that. So it was ridiculous. It really was humiliating for him and all of Marvel Comics. Don't know why they made that documentary, still to this day. This, on the other hand, as you can see, he's drawn a little face here, like, huh? Look at the hypnotized, huh? Kind of face. Steve Ditko's Spider-Man creation, okay? Again, in quotations, because he's saying this is what I am claiming is creation. And you can see, this is creation. This is like the fucking book of Genesis compared to what Stan Lee turned in. Steve Ditko comes up with the costume. He comes up with the web slinging. Look at the web spinners. He comes up, remember this little belt flashlight with well, we can forget about that. We don't really use the flashlight belt too much anymore. Here's the spider sense. Oh, my spider sense is tingling. And then half of his face is Spider-Man. Of course, that was used symbolically all through the 60s and 70s, perhaps even the 80s. Here's the spider tracker he says he came up with. And here, to sum up, he says, in summation, is Marvel's Spider-Man comic book character a one-man creation or a co-creation? I'm going to say it's a one-man creation. I'm going to say it was Steve Ditko. I'm going to say Stan Lee just said, Spider-Man, true believers? And Steve Ditko created this. So clearly it's basically a one-man creation. Look at this. Psst, he says, check Marvel stationery. Mailing labels? Which creation is used? Is it the word and name, or is it the art and costume? I think it is going to be a drawing of Spider-Man. Okay, anyone interested in facts and truth, and he's done this symbolically. These are the scales of justice, which, because of this cartoon that he's just drawn, he feels have been balanced out. And yet, he's going to leave it to his brother, because Steve Ditko, God bless him, he really just didn't care that much. He didn't want to be bothered with Spider-Man. He didn't want to talk to people about Spider-Man. Was he embittered by his experience at Marvel? I don't see how he couldn't have not been. And yet, he is gone now, so we can't really ask him to, how he feels about this. But because he has recently passed on, his estate has been handed over to his brother, who I believe is named Patrick Ditko. And Patrick is like, hey, I only want what's coming to me. I want my fair share. And it's like, what is your fair share? Your fair share is what your brother created in his lifetime, which has earned billions of dollars in merchandising and movies. Not so much in comic books. Maybe some comics. Mostly merchandising. Billions of dollars. Steve Ditko didn't want to fight for it, but now his estate does, and this is what you do. The Copyright Act of 1976 was the year, has allowed people who were exploited. I was going to use the R word, ripped off. I was going to use that word, but I stopped. Exploited by big corporations. They created something. They gave it away for almost nothing. They were not properly compensated. It is total rip. They're being ripped off, obviously. And now's the time to take those people to court and see what you can do. Now, the Siegel and Schuster family have been doing this to Warner Brothers nonstop, trying to get back, trying to renegotiate, trying to use the Copyright Act to see what they can do. Can we get back some of our character? Can we actually renegotiate? Now, the Schuster family settled for a little bit of money. They're getting $25,000 a month out of DC. That is chicken feed. That is ridiculous, considering that, their ancestor, it's really just a relative, created Superman. Everybody knows who Superman is. $25,000 a month, really? Okay, I mean, maybe that's okay. Maybe that's fine. The Siegel family is still constantly in negotiation. They're constantly appealing Warner Brothers to, get Superman's copyrights back. Several different copyrights of the character. I mean, we'll read it here. But DC has had to respond to that from time to time by actually changing the appearance of Superman. Many of you will remember the New 52 Superman and how ridiculously weird that was. That was back in 2011, where all of a sudden DC Comics said, we're changing Superman. We're going to have 3 different Superman books. He's going to look different in every single one. He's going to wear jeans and a t-shirt in one. It was very strange that he had to lose his red underpants, his red boots. He lost his spit curl. They changed his S logo. They did all of these things in order to protect the copyright, some form of the copyright over Superman, so they could still publish Superman comics. As the family contested and fought them in court. Warner Brothers, of course, with their vicious lawyers, ended up winning that round. But I think that's happening again. I think 10 years later, we are right back in the same circus. Look at these 2 characters that Steve Ditko created here. All right, let me see. Home of the Whopper. According to 2 respective notices of termination filed with the United States Copyright Office on August 26, brought to widespread attention by Marvel artist J.L. Mast. By the way, we're never told about this stuff. So, Marvel and DC will be fighting the relatives, fighting the families of the people who created the properties that we exploit. That we're being exploited while we exploit their hard work. I mean, the comic book industry really is vicious. It is ugly. You're next on the chopping block. Your work will be exploited one day by the next generation of people who are being exploited, exploiting your creative work. I want to put a stop to it. I would love to see all of this change. I would love to see Patrick S. Ditko actually take so much of the rights back from Spider-Man. I'm hoping that's going to happen so that, at least we know when Spider-Man comics are being created, when they're being purchased by the fans. I think the fans would feel a lot better knowing that the Ditko family is getting rich. Imagine that. Imagine getting rich from the creation of Steve Ditko, the work of Steve Ditko. All right, so JL Mast had to let people know this. They leaked this stuff. I found out about the Superman stuff, and I leaked it. I talked about it a little bit. Patrick S. Ditko, the son... Oh, it's his son. It's not his brother. I take that back. I misread that. The son and current administrator of Steve Ditko's estate is seeking to revoke Marvel's copyright over both the Amazing Fantasy Volume 1, number 15 story Spider-Man, in which the eponymous wall crawler makes his first appearance. Now, this is an achievable goal. Okay, this could very easily happen. They could win this because he's not asking for very much. He's saying, look, yeah, we think that Steve Ditko should retain the rights to Amazing Fantasy number 15 and all of the creative work, because that is where all of the creative work of Spider-Man really took place in his first appearance. Look at this. If this happens, if the court agrees, Marvel Comics will still be able to publish Spider-Man comics, but all of the stuff that you see here will no longer be owned by them. They will have to completely change Spider-Man in order to continue publishing. No more Flash Thompson. No more Betty Brant. Is it Betty Brant? What was her name? No more of anything that appeared in Amazing Fantasy. Bookworm Peter Parker. Peter Parker you couldn't use. Now, some of you are saying, Ethan, it seems to me that Marvel Comics has already anticipated this, and that is why they have Miles Morales. That is why they have Spider-Gwen. That is why they have all of these diverse and inclusive versions of Spider-Man already lined up. And if your spider sense is tingling and you are saying to yourself right now, I think I've been had. I think I was supporting Marvel Comics and their efforts to promote diversity and inclusion when I bought their Miles Morales comics and all these other comics. You have been had. This is Marvel Comics preparing for this exact moment. We can't use Peter Parker anymore because Steve Ditko's estate owns Peter Parker. Okay, don't worry about it. We've still got Spider-Man, but his name is Miles Morales. And we've still got all these other Spider characters that we have created, these bootleg Spider-Man characters. Spider-Woman they'll still be able to use. All of the elements of Spider-Man that they have added over time after Amazing Fantasy number 15. All that stuff will go back. Okay, also Doctor Strange. He wants the debut of Doctor Strange, Strange Tales, number 110. So every element of Doctor Strange that is in this first appearance. And I don't think I read this. I don't know if Wu was in this. I don't know who gets introduced in this issue. I would go back and read it just for fun, and go back and read Amazing Fantasy number 15 and just see all of the elements of Spider-Man that appear in Amazing Fantasy 15 revoked from Marvel Comics. Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. If successful, Patrick Ditko's termination of Marvel's copyrights would not necessarily require the publisher to stop publishing comics featuring the characters, as they would still retain the trademarks over them, but could see them barred from using any of the elements featured in the two stories. Okay? And that's what we just talked about. Thus, items such as Spider-Man's web shooters, sorry. The Amulet of Agamotto, gone. Characters including Aunt May, Uncle Ben, Wong, not Wu, Wong, the Ancient One, and even both heroes' costumes could not be used in any Marvel comic, film, or other media. Again, they anticipated this. If you thought that, all of these diverse versions of these characters were happening because they care about representing you, the reader, wake up. These are big corporations. They couldn't give a damn about you. Their main reason for creating those characters, to exploit the creative people, to make sure that they're still able to publish these comics, these characters that great creators were exploited in creating. And that's just the truth of the matter. All right, so anyway, logistics of copyright termination law are complicated. You can read this. The basic rules for works created and assigned prior to 1978 is that termination can be effective anytime within a 5-year window that opens exactly 56 years from the date copyright was originally secured. So Siegel, copyright was, that's Superman, April 18th, 1938. The 5-year termination window opened 1994, and they have been going hard after Superman. But again, Warner's very powerful. Even that window is missed. Okay, renewal in 1998. A second 5-year window opens 75 years after the date of copyright. You can see this version of Superman. Why does this exist? That's why that version of Superman exists, okay? I mean, that's pretty much what's going on there. Schuster's heirs are seeking to take advantage of this provision, having given notice of their intent to terminate in 2013. They continued, if a work is first created or assigned after 1978, the termination can generally be effective any time during a 5-year window beginning 35 years after execution of the grant. Now, what are we seeing right now? We're seeing that DC Comics is sending Clark Kent, Superman, away to another planet. They're not going to use him anymore. Jonathan Kent is going to be the new Superman. Jonathan Kent is also bisexual or queer or something like that. Who knows? And the reason why they're doing that is apparent. You know, they might as well virtue signal as they are ripping off the Siegel and Schuster families. They might as well say, we care about diversity. We care about the rainbow and the LGBTQ community. Wrong. They could give a damn. They're just trying to make themselves look like anything other than the evil corporation that they, of course, are. Taking these legal provisions into account, the window to terminate copyright over Spider-Man's initial publication in 1962 would open in 2018 and end in 2023. Let's go, boys. Let's get it done. While Doctor Strange's 1963 introduction would make his copyright eligible for termination somewhere in this window here, 2019-2024. Now, why isn't Stan Lee fighting for this? I don't know. I have a feeling that Stan Lee's contract, which he signed at some point to become the figurehead of Marvel Comics and receive a paycheck of $1 million a year. Yeah, he was a salaried employee of the company that he actually created. That might have prohibited him from entering into any kind of a lawsuit like this. I'm speculating. I don't know. I haven't read his contract, but it does seem like that is probably the case. And I'll bet you Stan Lee's estate is still receiving that $1 million a year. So in order to use his likeness and et cetera, et cetera. Copyright Office further adds that termination provisions are intended to protect authors and their heirs against unremunerative agreements. That's no money. You get no money by giving them an opportunity to share in the later economic success of their works by allowing authors or their heirs during particular periods of time long after the original grant to regain the previously granted copyright or copyright rights. That is amazing. That is fantastic. Who are we? Who am I? And who are you? I mean, I assume that you are somebody who is on the side of the creator. You are somebody who's on the side of the people who actually came up with these wonderful ideas. And you, like me, believe that the creators of Spider-Man and Doctor Strange deserve to be very, very, very wealthy men. And since both of them are dead, their families deserve to share in that wealth. I have a comic book called Cyberfrog that is doing very, very well in crowdfunding. Maybe you've heard of Cyberfrog. You can actually support Cyberfrog in the links below if you want to get a comic book, if you want to help back the action figures. This is just what I've created during my lifetime, and I hope that if Cyberfrog becomes more popular after I'm dead, my kids, my wife, my family will get to benefit from my work that I did during my lifetime. Part of doing that is not selling your creation to a big corporation, but since some of these people, many of them, had no choice during their lifetimes, during the 1940s and 50s, it'd be great if some measure of morality and justice came down and even those scales for the Ditko family. Let's make that happen. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this content, please leave me a message below if you have more information for me, if I got something wrong. I read all the comments. I love you guys. No, I do. I really do. And I will see you again soon with another video. Take care. Hey, I got a P.O. box. Want to send me some mail? Send it to Ethan Van Sciver, P.O. Box 607, Marlton, New Jersey, 08053. And I'll probably open it up on a live stream. Thanks very much, everyone. Hey, you want to follow me on Twitter? Are you sure? Well, if so, I'm at Ethan Van Sciver. That's at Ethan Van Sciver. See you there.